Hello, I'm Kendra, and here at Happenstance Place, we have been all about all things home canning all summer, and now we are going to reap the benefits and make things out of those canned goods during the fall and winter. During the entire month of October, I'm going to share with you some of the things that we eat and how we incorporate our canned goods in them. It is a gloomy and rainy day outside, and so tonight I decided it was time for a little comfort food. We're gonna have breakfast for dinner tonight, and I'm gonna make some pancakes. Also, note the annoying household noise of the day is that we are dehydrating garlic. So our dehydrator is going, and it is not the quietest thing in the world if you hear a weird kind of whooshy noise in the background, because that's what I hear in my head at this moment. So to make our pancakes, I am going to use applesauce rather than eggs or oil, and I am also going to use apple jelly to top them instead of syrup. So those are the two things that we canned that go into this meal. So now on to how I make my pancakes. We have a family of 5, so when I make pancakes, I make 2 or 3 recipes worth. That way I can feed everybody. I'm running low on flour. In fact, I usually use whole wheat flour, but today we're just going to use some all-purpose white flour because it's what I have on hand. I'm going to measure it first to determine how many batches I'm going to make because I am not exactly sure how much flour I have. So I begin the recipe. I'll tell you what a single recipe would be, and then I'm going to make more than one. So you're going to put 1 cup of flour for each recipe. Oh yeah, it looks like I'm going to make a triple batch. Okay, that should be perfect. So, as I said, 1 cup of flour per batch and 2 tablespoons of sugar. I keep all of my baking goods in large airtight plastic containers, like the kind they sell for you to put animal food in. That is where I store my dry goods. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of sugar per recipe. So there's 1 recipe, and it's not an exact science. I mean, these are just pancakes. We're already mixing it up a bit because we're going to use some applesauce. Okay, so there's my sugar. And I'm going to grab a tablespoon to add in my baking powder. Teaspoon. Okay. Now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder for each recipe. It helps them to leaven. Now I've kind of just tinkered around with this recipe over time. I mean, it's making pancakes, so it's not like it's my recipe, but I have played with it till they turn out the way I like them, and that works with our ingredients. Okay, next we're going to add some salt. We're going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt for each recipe, and I just keep my salt in a jar on my counter all the time, and I keep a teaspoon in it because right now while I'm canning, when I add salt to my quarts of vegetables, I use a teaspoon. So it just hangs out in there. I'm going to stir these dry ingredients together. And also right now, I'm going to go ahead and flick on my griddle onto high so that it will heat up. Now we're going to add, the recipe calls for 1 egg beaten and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil per batch. Now an egg beaten translates to about a 1/4 cup of applesauce, and 2 tablespoons of vegetables is obviously, or vegetable oil is obviously 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to aim for, I don't know, about a cup of applesauce. This is the jar of applesauce I opened the other day when we had muffin tins for lunch, and this is what was left. So I'm going to just start by adding this in, and I'll see what consistency I get. But we're looking for a triple batch for about 3/4 of a cup plus the 6 tablespoons. It's not an exact science. They're just pancakes. So I'm going to stir. Yeah, that looks like that'll work. Okay, now that I've kind of stirred that in a little, I like to kind of make sure the applesauce, I don't know, breaks up a little. Okay, now I'm going to add the milk. It's 1 cup of milk per recipe, so obviously I'm going to add 3 cups. We use whole milk, but you can use whatever milk you choose. I've also made the same recipe using like soy milk or almond milk or that sort of thing. You basically just need something wet in here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm going to stir that up and see what consistency we're looking like. And if I'm not happy with it, I'll just add some more milk. You don't want to over mix, but I prefer that everything just be incorporated. I'm not too worried. I don't have major feelings about having huge fluffy pancakes. I just want them to taste good. And once it seems like everything is moistened, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for a few minutes. I find that that is really nice, and it's like the flour absorbs all the liquid and we end up with better pancakes. So I'm going to let that hang out for a minute while my griddle finishes heating up, and then we'll make some pancakes. I think that everything is all heated up and ready to go. Now to grease my griddle, I just take a stick of butter, and this is a piece that was in the fridge. And I just peel back the wrapper, and I like to just rub it across. Now I don't do this between every one. I usually just do it kind of to prime the griddle for the first one. Sometimes I have to do it again in the middle. I know you could spray it with cooking spray, but I find that those aerosols build up, and as this griddle is made specifically to fit my stove, I would like it to last as long as the stove. So I'm just going to grab a scoop of pancake and set it right there, and I'll grab one and put it over here. I go in phases as to whether I like big pancakes or little ones. I ultimately probably prefer to have lots of little ones, but sometimes I'm just lazy, so then I cook them bigger because they're all gonna get cut up anyways. So basically what I'm looking for is for the pancakes to be cooked around the edges and start to have bubbles in the center. At that point, slide our flipper under there and pancake. Okay. Not too bad for the first batch. Let's let those hang out there. And finish cooking on the other side. The other side doesn't take near as long. Now, when these are done, what I do is I just get a plate ready. I have a plate sitting right here, and I cover it with a towel. During the winter time, I will actually put 2 towels. That way everything stays nice and hot. My husband's family, when he was growing up, would eat pancakes like as they came off the griddle. So you kind of took turns, like who got a pancake, and you just kind of went that way. Well, my family always made them all in advance, and then we all sat down and ate them together. Personally, I prefer that, especially in the evenings, the way we do this. Since Steve is asleep because he works nights and I will just send his dinner with him, I'm going to eat alone with the kids, so it's really not very much fun for me to cook the whole time. So instead, I make all of the food, cut everybody's food up, and then we sit down and we eat together. So there will be a big old stack of pancakes under that towel before we get to eat them. So I'm just going to continue to cook these. Also worthy of note, I'm going to move this off of the stove. I learned my lesson a couple times ago, that if I leave this, even a glass pan or whatever right here, it gets hot and then it starts to basically cook a pancake along the inside of the bowl, which, while it was humorous, is overall not the effect I'm going for. So I'm going to cook these pancakes and I will show you what they turn out like. So now here we have the finished pancakes. I also went ahead and I made some eggs with bacon in them. I find that I can stretch the bacon a little bit further if I cook it up in the eggs instead of separately. I think there's only about 3 or 4 slices of thick cut bacon, which I just fried up in my cast iron skillet, and then I put the eggs on top and cooked those. I also cut up some green apples and grapes we had in the fridge, and then here's one of the pancakes. Instead of using syrup, I'm going to use some of this, which is apple jelly. I make the apple jelly out of the cores and skins. that come out of the apples we use for applesauce, apple butter, apple chunks, anything we make that's made out of an apple. We save all of the good cores, and then I make them into jelly because they have their own pectin. And as you can see, it's super runny because I didn't add any additional pectin, so it acts just like syrup. We love this on pancakes, cornbread, and I even like it as like a honey replacement in my tea. So that is dinner tonight. If you enjoyed this video, you can go ahead and give it a thumbs up down below. There's also a link on the screen to the other Feed Your Face videos if you'd like to see more foodie content. And you can also subscribe to see our daily vlogs and see what we're up to around here. I'll see you all next time. Bye!